All right, students, today we are going to be talking about um, birth defects and prenatal care. So, our objective is for you to be able to identify genetic and environmental factors that influence birth defects and prenatal care. Whoa, I skipped way too fast. Okay, essential question. You're going to write this on page 29 of your packet. So, that's actually going to be the very last page of your packet right here. Okay. That's where you're going to write your essential question. The essential question for today is, how do genetic and environmental factors influence birth defects? So go ahead and pause this video right now until you've written the essential question. Then come back and we'll walk through it together. Okay. Go ahead. Pause. All right. Welcome back. So now we are starting on page 25 of your packet, where it says birth defects and prenatal care. You should be able to see that. Okay. So up here at the top, first thing that you need to know is the name of sex cells for humans. Females are called ovum or eggs. Males are called sperm. Okay. You may have heard of those things before. We'll talk about those as we go throughout class today and throughout the semester. Chromosomes. Another thing you need to know is that chromosomes are rod-shaped chemical compounds that carry genetic coding and transmit characteristics from the parent to the child. So that part's not actually in your notes. That's just what they are. And this is actually a picture right here of what chromosomes look like under a microscope. So what you need to know about chromosomes is that they are found in both the sperm and the ovum. So sperm and ovum have chromosomes in them. Sperm and ovum contain 23 chromosomes each. So a sperm has 23 chromosomes. A ovum has 23 chromosomes. So a fertilized ovum has 23 pairs of chromosomes, which means they have 46 chromosomes total. And when I say a fertilized ovum, that's when the sperm and the egg meet. Okay? We'll talk about that more when I come back. Genes. Genes carry inherited traits. They pass on physical characteristics from one generation to another. As humans, we have hundreds of thousands of genes that make up who we are. These genes are carried on every chromosome. So some genes are influenced by multiple chromosomes. Some genes are influenced by just one. Okay. So that's something else. They're inherited traits. These are the things that we get from our biological parents. So one single cell can give us 200 billion genes. Okay, so we have 200 billion genes on one single cell that we have. So this is kind of what they look like. You don't need to know this, but it's just something that's interesting. All right, there are two different types of genes. One is a dominant gene. So a dominant gene is a stronger gene, and it more often shows up in traits. You only need one dominant gene to pass on the characteristic. So an example of a dominant gene is brown eyes. Brown eyes is a dominant gene. So if you have brown eyes, you have a dominant gene. If you do not have brown eyes, you have the other type of gene. Recessive genes. Recessive genes are weaker genes. They will only produce a trait when it is transmitted by both parents at the same time. So an example is red hair. Red hair is a recessive gene and a recessive trait. So here's why this is important. So you have dominant and recessive genes. I'm going to move myself over here. Okay. So here are some traits that are dominant, right here. And here are some traits that are recessive. So having a cleft chin, which is where the chin is like this, is dominant. Having a widow's peak, where your hairline comes to a point, is dominant. Dimples are dominant. Brown and black hair, freckles, brown eyes, and then having a free earlobe, which means you have this part is dominant. So no cleft, no widow's peak, no dimples, blonde hair, no freckles, gray or blue eyes, and an attached earlobe are all recessive traits. So we're going to talk about why that's important and why you need to know that. So here's how we kind of know which traits are dominant and which ones are recessive. So we're going to say, so this is an example from my life, okay? So my dad, my biological dad, has blue eyes. Blue eyes is recessive, so we have little b's here because they're recessive. Then we have brown eyes. My mom has brown eyes. I know that she has a big dominant gene and a recessive gene. The reason why I know that, I'll have to show you, okay? But dominant means, so this means that some of my siblings have brown eyes because they have a dominant and a recessive. So you kind of drag these over and down, drag this over, drag that down. Same thing. Woo. This is called a Punnett square. You don't need to know that. But that's how we can kind of track genes. So the reason why I know my mom has a recessive is because, I don't know, I'm going to make you look at my eyeballs. Well, I do not have brown eyes, okay? I have gray, blue, green eyes, which is recessive, right? So in order for me to actually have that, my mom has to have one recessive trait. Otherwise, what happens is right here, like you can see, we have a dominant and a recessive. Because the dominant is dominant and it's stronger, it kind of takes over from the recessive trait. So it's the one that shows up. That's how I know my mom has a recessive trait, is because I don't have brown eyes. If I had brown eyes and all my siblings had brown eyes, we could probably say that my mom had two dominant genes. Okay? So, I want you to try. This says on a sticky note, but you can do it in your pocket if you want. I will, or you can do it on one of the quarter sheets of paper that are on the front table. So I'm going to pause and, well, we're going to end this video actually, and we'll come back with this one. Okay?